gold is not playing, it is just moving its way on up. Get to let's go over to silver. Again, if silver is not following suit, Abbott Labs, right? And if we look at Abbott Labs, they missed on their earnings right here. They did pay dividends, so I think that's part of the reason. It is holding after the close. I did talk about the banks also. Morgan Stanley is one of them. Could this just be a nice little solid win? Charles Schwab, right? They're going to be reporting this morning, and we're going to go ahead and see what a company that goes and take over another company and what their results. What can they do? Alright everybody, what's going on? Good morning. We got a lot of stuff that we gotta go ahead and cover. Let's go ahead and get this party started. You already know how we kind of roll. This is another episode of BYTTT. You already know to go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. That way it works that Google algorithm, or should I say YouTube? Same difference. Parents are parents. Algorithms, so that way they know that I bring you solid content, and let your friends know. You can share it out there. And NQ, when it hit, it kind of drifted right back up. It just wanted to push, and we're probably going to go ahead and try to take more of the sell side movement. I think we're not going to get to 25,158 because yesterday's action, we really flipped the candle red. It just recovered, so they might be setting something up of a bull trap between this, and this, and then we're going to get another very elephant monstrous candle to the downside if they can gain control. So look for a trap outside of 120. Let's go over to oil. Oil's still drifting down. This is my trend line. Remember, it takes 2 candles to make a trend, and that's exactly what we're doing. Got a little bit of an adjustment here. Came to the order block. This is an old order block that goes back from April. And if we go further back, it also goes into February of 2021. So very, very tough level. I don't think we're gonna get oil under $55, but if we did, look for it to get to 55 and some change, maybe even 54. Let's go ahead and move over to gold. Gold is not playing, it is just moving its way on up, and it's not hesitating or giving anybody any opportunity for them to go ahead and play to the downside. We are on our 5th day ever since the pullback of just nothing but pure green. Let me get rid of these lines because this was some old setups that I had, and you can see where could we go. Let me see. Let's grab this. We could get to 43.40. That is where we could go. So we're going to see what happens with that. Let's go over to silver. Again, if silver is not following suit, be paranoid for gold. You got yourself a nice little impulsive movement yesterday. This one's a little red today, so we don't have that pure action to the upside like we do with gold, but you can kind of see it is trying to keep that thing trucking on. This is the British pound. I warned y'all about this. Very interesting head and shoulder. We need to break that neckline, which will bring us to the continuation of here. I think we're just retracing a little bit before that actually happens, so just be patient and wait for your setup. Here's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is under the order block that I told y'all about, and this thing could really start to dump into something that you could be a little uncomfortable and frustrated with. So make sure that this is going to break above these areas, so that way we can attack this fair value gap. Anything else is uncivilized. And then you got the Russell. I do think that everybody's pouring their money into the Russell before they actually really bail out of the market per se. And if you ever known anything about the Russell has a tendency where it kind of moves against the market. It already filled its bearish move to the downside. I think this is its key level of support. When they finally get that meltdown by the rest of the market, I think we'll fill the rest of this, but I think we will not, I repeat, will not break 381 with some strength. That brings us back into that 300. I think this is going to be where everybody's going to park their money as we're getting more into our domestic values. And then here is the infamous, undeniable, the force of nature, the US dollar. And the US dollar is trying to put some pressure to the downside right now. And I think that's why we're drifting up. But I don't think we're going to get past this order block, and this order block is going to go ahead and hold us up. And if it does, that is going to be the order block that really pushes the market, probably get us back into that dollar mark or 100 mark on the US dollar. All right, so we kind of covered everything that is going on with the market. Like I said, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. But whatever I told you is that at the end of the day, healthcare is the next move, right? And unfortunately, yesterday I had some audio issues that kind of came across. I had to fix my mic and all that stuff. So let's talk about healthcare. There was an earnings that I told y'all about, which was Abbott Labs, right? And if we look at Abbott Labs, they missed on their earnings right here. But if we go to a larger scale, you can see tight consolidation. Even though we're going into the market cycle, which tends to be a little bit more into the healthcare space around this time, but just watch this level. I think we're just getting into a little bit of a consolidation until the market actually decides what they want to do with NQ and all the other indices, and that's going to allow for you to go ahead and set yourself up for a nice sector rotation. Healthcare is a good spot to look at. And they did pay dividends, so I think that's part of the reason. It is holding after the close, so we're going to go ahead and see, can they flip this MACD back to bullish? That is going to be the golden question, so just wait for that. I did talk about the banks also. Morgan Stanley is one of them. They had their earnings, nice little solid move to the upside. I think this was a little bit of a pullback, which also put some pressure on something like Goldman Sachs. This is the one that I kind of told y'all about earlier in the week. I still think it could go a little bit lower. I want them to kind of get deeper into this order block. But again, the market's going to do what the market does. Do not force anything inside of the market. So looking at Morgan Stanley, could this just be a nice little solid win? 33% extra with an extra $1.5 billion in revenue. You want to see that from one of your stronger companies. All right. And then we talked about airlines. This was UAL, and this bad boy right here, I think it wants to take off. This is another one I'm curious. Is the airline space starting to figure out how to really make money? If we look at the earnings, they did lose a little bit on the revenue, but it is only a little bit. They return money to shareholders. Their guidance is giving us, especially when we get towards the holiday season, we're going to start to really pick up on this side. And I think this is setting up for a very strong January for 2026 on the airline space. Let's go ahead and keep this moving. We got ourselves Schwab. Schwab is going to be reporting sometime today. Where are you, Schwab? There it is. Schwab, Charles Schwab, right? They're going to be reporting this morning, and we're going to go ahead and see what a company that goes and take over another company and what their results. I think they did a good job by getting the Thinkorswim platform, and they are doing relatively well with their merger with TD Ameritrade. I think we're going to get some positive results here, but the only thing that's going to be a big question mark is what can they do? Can they finally get to $100? Is this the earnings that's going to get us up there? Be patient. Don't force anything. We're up pre-market. And if this reports well, we should see something fun. And then I got another one for y'all. And this will be our last one. Hey, when was the last time you heard anything about railroads, right? Like, railroads is one of the biggest way that we move things across the country. And you can kind of see we had $36 here. Nice little setup. And we got ourselves a nice little micro trend on this side, even though we've been in this little consolidation zone as they're trying to figure out what's the next step for CX. So this is probably going to go ahead and carry the rest of the industry. I think they're the first ones to report for the industry. And this should give you a nice little sign on what we are going to do from a logistical standpoint. All right, so I just want to kind of recap a couple of things. If y'all don't know, I do have my relative and powerful alert system, and I am doing my best to go ahead and find you some very individual tickers. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, I do suggest that you do so, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. That way I can go ahead and bring you really good information, so that way you're successful, because before you take the trade, you got to hear it from me. All right, go ahead and do your thing, and I'll see y'all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.